Hey, welcome to Wholesale Hotties, a place where ladies of real estate are talking about real estate. I'm Sharon Lee Smith, your host and MC for the evening, together with my co-host Donda Molinex, Monique Fell, Kate Gomes, Angie Milanazzo, and this week we are interviewing Mychele Bisson, right? Did I say it? I did good. welcome. Let's talk about real estate, girls. How's it going?
Good. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome. Doing good.
Good. Are you ready for that big freeze that's supposed to come in?
I'm sorry, say again.
I said, are you getting ready for that big freeze that's coming in?
Oh, girlfriend, I am in Florida for the last few days and for the next couple days, so I'm not going to be freezing. Thank the Lord.
It happens, though. I've heard of the iguana bombs they get out there during the freezes.
Oh, gosh.
Hush. So, Mychele, tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? Where are you from? What's going on in your world?
Well, I'm in Colorado. This is where I'm home based, but one of the reasons why I was like, I'm keeping track of the freeze is because I have parks that are above that freeze belt. And so I have to make sure that all of them know exactly what to do in case that freeze comes through so that we don't bust out all of our pipes. So, but on the other side of that, I buy RV parks. I own 4 of them, and I'm getting ready to buy my 5th one. So, yes.
Ooh.
You are rocking it, Mychele.
You're on fire.
Yeah, we're trying. It's a lot, but yeah, it's great.
And the one you're looking at now is really in the freeze zone, right?
Yes, it is in Alaska. It is actually the largest park in Alaska.
What?
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's got 172 pads and 19 cabins.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. It's a beautiful area. I'm super excited about it. It's probably one of my favorite places now. We went up and looked at it right before Christmas. So it was snowy and cold and beautiful and crisp, and it was amazing. So,
So did you fly through Washington State on your way there? Or did you guys go? I don't think, did you go straight flight to Alaska, or do you have to go through Washington?
Yeah, no, there's a straight direct flight from Denver to Anchorage.
Oh,
so
nice.
yeah, so we flew up to Anchorage and then took a little puddle jumper over to Valdez.
Huh.
Nice.
Pretty cool.
How long of a flight was that? A long
It was a 6-hour flight from Denver.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
That's not too bad. That's like Florida.
Yeah, so it wasn't horrible. It was really definitely different though, because when we got up there and we were flying to Valdez, we spent one night in Anchorage and then jumped on the plane to go to Valdez the next day. One, it was super because at 8 a.m. it's pitch black, so it's like 10 p.m. at night, which was different. And then from there, you don't go through security at the airport.
What?
Really?
Yeah, super strange because they were like, okay, well, go down the escalator, go down the hall. And I'm waiting to go through TSA this entire time. And as we're walking down the hall, I'm like waiting because my ticket actually has the wrong name on it. And so I'm like, eventually somebody's going to stop me. And we just ended up at the gate. And so by the time we ended up at the gate, I'm like, do we not go through security? Like, what happens? And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, surely by the time I hand them my ticket and they see that it's misspelled, they're going to stop me and be like, you're not allowed on the plane. But then she looked at it. She's like, yeah, you're good. And she just let me go. I was like, oh, okay.
I think during a layover where's Valdez?
It is, so Anchorage is like on that little inlet, and it's kind of up in that back end. So it's where all the oil is and stuff.
Out there.
So beautiful area. It was gorgeous up there. I fell in love with it. I always say that like mountains don't really impress me. I'm from Colorado. I like overlook mountains all the time. Like there's
Right.
a view of the front range from my patio. Mountains don't really actually really impressed me up in Alaska. So
What made you look up there in the first place?
you know what? The park was actually brought to us.
Okay.
And it does really, really well. It does over $1.5 million
Wow.
a year,
Whoa.
4 months that it's open. So it kind of, it worked. And so we kind of put it off a couple of times. We didn't really go after it when we first got it. It was kind of one of those ones that like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but do we really want to go after that? And my husband he shouldn't tell me things because I was like, no, I really, really want it. And he was like, no, we should do it. And I was like, no, I really, really want it. And so we kind of went back and forth, and basically it was, I'm going to buy it with or without you, so you need to get on board. So
I love it.
yeah, so he
That's
was like,
what I gotta do, right? Let's give him a little push.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of been our whole real estate journey, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And he was saying a really bad 6-letter word, that should word. I had somebody say, don't should on yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
If you want it, if you can do it, if you like it, do it.
Mychele, what inspired you to focus on RV parks and like have it as your investment niche?
Honestly, it wasn't something that I really like. It wasn't something that we actively pursued at first. Our first one kind of fell in our lap.
Uh-huh.
And so when the first one like came up, and it was one of those things, like at this point, like you guys, I started real estate investing 5 years ago, and I started in single family homes. So I built up a portfolio of long-term rentals, and then was given this opportunity to buy this resort zone land in Scottsdale. So when we bought that and decided to build on it, I realized I didn't know how to run short-term rentals, which is how I got kicked into short-term rentals. And then from there, we built the resort. And when we built the resort, my husband was like, I'm going to leave my W-2. And so that was kind of the catalyst of, now we need to go into something that has a business attached that makes more money. And so from there, we started looking at mobile home parks and storage units and different things of that nature, multifamilies. And through that, somebody actually sent us an email that had like single family, it had a storage unit, it had a mobile home park, and at the very bottom, like 2 little lines, was an RV park. And so we kind of got to the bottom of the email, and we were like, we should look into that. So we kind of looked at it, realized what it was, started running numbers on it, and we're like, we should really look at this. And so it was something that kind of fell into our lap by chance. And when we really started looking at the numbers that it could produce and started really investigating what we could do with it, we realized, well, this should have been our niche the whole time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hindsight is 20/20, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just with the numbers that it can do and with the businesses that you can add on top of it, it really didn't make sense for us to go into anything else.
And did you say before you were doing just like regular buy and hold long-term single family home rentals?
I actually did start in buy and hold long-term rentals. Actually, and the funny thing about that is that I jumped into that without my husband knowing. So he's got a whole.
Oh, do tell that one.
Well, so I had always loved real estate. I've always loved real estate investing. I've always thought it was super interesting. Like I was reading the Robert Kiyosaki books when I was like in my 20s. It was always something I really wanted to do, and I just never jumped into it. Yeah. And so fast forward, we're going through COVID. My husband's job is completely based in restaurants. So it is based on people going to restaurants and people being social. Yeah. We've been home now for like a month or two. We got real comfortable at the beginning, thought it was really cool. And then we realized, oh, this might actually be normal now. Like people may not go back to restaurants. And that was kind of a scary thing because our entire livelihood was on franchises, like big franchises, lots of people going to the bar, like things like that. Oh. And we had a really good life. And I was just like, what do we do if things don't go back to normal and your entire thing gets nixed? Like, what do we do? And so a friend of mine during COVID had up and moved her entire family out to Tennessee, literally just up and moved everybody. She had 2 kids who were going to a private college out in Tennessee, up, moved her family out there and bought 3 cabins all at the same time. And I was like, whoa, how did you do that? And so they had come back to visit, and she was like, well, let's get together and have dinner. So they came over, had dinner. And during the dinner, she tells me, well, for the last 16 years, we've been investing in real estate. And I was like, wait a second. I've known you for 20 years. You've never said this. And she goes, oh, I've said it. You've just never heard it.
You've never heard it. That's right.
Yeah, when you're
And
interested in
so-
something, it changes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she had built up this portfolio of long-term rentals that were basically cash flowing really, really well. And they were able to build this lifestyle. They traveled all over the world. They did all these things. And then they up and could move in the middle of a pandemic without thinking twice about it. And I was like, whoa. So exactly. And so they kept saying cash flow. So Patrick latched onto that word and he was like, what do you mean? And the guy showed him a spreadsheet. He was like, basically, this is what we've been doing. This is how much we're making on it. This is how we calculate it out. And Patrick is all about numbers. So he was like, well, that's really interesting. And so they leave. So that night he says to me, well, we could do something like that. And I hear that different. I'm very much an activator. It's a good idea. Let's research it. And I heard, we're now investors. We should buy property.
Oh, that's what I hear too. I hear you.
I heard the same thing.
Right.
Me too.
And so I was like, absolutely. So I got on Facebook that night and I looked for a real estate agent and I wrote her and I said, listen, I want to go into buy and holds. I want to start renting them out. This is the neighborhoods that I'm looking at. This is how much I'll pay. And if you bring me a good deal, I promise to bring all of my deals to you.
Awesome.
So she was like, great, let's have a meeting tomorrow at 11:30, right? Okay, great. So she had a smart portfolio of her own and she was like, we'll meet and we'll talk about it. So that next morning, Patrick goes off to play golf at like 7 a.m. At 8:30 in the morning, I get a phone call from the agent and she's like, I've got a listing that's about to go live. I think it fits in your box. Like, do you want to come look at it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I text Patrick, don't hear anything. I give him a call, don't hear anything. Text him a couple more times, don't hear anything. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go take a look. I go take a look at it. It fits exactly what I want. And I'm like, yeah, let's buy it. I put in an offer and realize my husband has no idea that we're about to buy a house. So I'm like, it'll be fine. So I text him a couple more times. And I give him a call. He's still not answering. He's on the golf course. That's his fault. He doesn't want to be in the know.
That's right.
Did I answer that call?
Right? As I'm driving home, he finally calls me back. He's on the 10th hole and he's like, are you okay? I've got all these messages from you. Is everything all right? And I'm like, everything's fine.
I just bought some real estate.
We'll talk about it later. It'll be fine. And I hang up.
Oh my God, I love it.
And so he is like, he doesn't call back.
Oh no.
And then when he gets home later that afternoon, he's like, do you want to tell me what happened? And I was like, you know what? I said, it all worked out. I said, I've already listed it. It's full ranked. I haven't closed on it. I've literally just put in the offer and it's been accepted at this point. But I haven't actually bought it. So I listed it that afternoon. I had the deposit and the contract in 2 days. They were moving in the day that we closed. And I go back to Patrick and I was like, look, I'm making an extra $700 a month and I didn't do anything. And he was like, so from there, he was like, awesome, let's try it again. So we went out literally the next day and did it again.
Oh my gosh.
So on both of those houses on the same day and had tenants move in that night and then literally went out and did it again the next month and then did it again the next month and then did it again the next month. And I did that until I had about 15 of them.
Wow.
You got into contract and put a tenant in right away during escrow?
Yep,
Wow.
I sure did. I don't recommend it.
I don't recommend it, she says.
Did you get
Not
permit
for
for
the
that?
risk-averse. Got it.
Uh-huh.
I said not for
What
the
was that?
risk-averse.
Yeah, no, like if you don't like to like feel a little adrenaline kick, I don't recommend it for you. I mean, there was
I like jumping out of planes, don't you?
right. I've done that.
Awesome.
There was one that we almost did not close on, and we had a tenant moving in. Like they were traveling from Seattle. And they were moving in, and we almost didn't close. And because the underwriter was new, and she was like, "You've already got all these loans. I don't know if I should like approve this." Like she was kind of going back and forth. And at the last minute, they were hitting the Colorado border, and we pulled stock out, paid for the house in cash, closed the deal,
Oh my gosh.
put them in it. We were renting it out for $3,000 a month. They were some of our best tenants. And then I refinanced that house 6 months later. I got out all of my cash plus some and turned around and bought my first short-term rental with it, and actually we were making like $10,000 a week on that house.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I pivoted that one into short-term rental. I still own that original long-term rental. Right now it makes me $3,500 a month.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
good.
Mychele, I know a lot of people that are looking at investing typically aren't going to be able to go buy 1-2 houses in the same day and another one. How did you actually finance those? Because that's going to be a big question for them. Like, where did the money come from? How are you able to get approved and all that type of stuff on those deals?
Great.
So when you actually go into conventional loans, you're allowed to have 10 conventional loans under your own name if you can pay for them. And so what we did was the first couple, we were fine. We had the down payment. We had been saving money. We weren't really doing anything with it. And so we had quite a large nest egg that we were just kind of sitting on. And so we actually used all of that initially to do all of our down payments. So that helped out a lot. Then we moved into DSCR loans. And then from there, we actually moved into cashing out stocks to buy houses because we were getting better returns on them.
Then did you put money back into stocks when you refinanced out of it, or did you just end up being more invested in real estate?
We ended up buying more real estate as we went. And so we just got larger and larger assets as we went.
Great question.
And Mychele, DCR loan, can you kind of just do a brief little synopsis of what somebody who might not know what a DCR loan is, what that would be?
So I know with our DSCR loans, we did those more on the beach houses, which we were using as rentals. And I'm sure Angie could probably talk a little bit more about those because I'm not totally like in the weeds on them. I just understand that it was based more on the asset and what the asset than what I personally was bringing in. And since it was in an area where there were no hotels, the only access to the beach that you have is through the beach houses. And we were going to own 2 of the beach houses. It was considered a good play by the lender. So
I would say so.
And actually, one of those houses made us $10,000 a week, and the other one was making us $17,000 a week at the peak.
Week. Holy crap.
That's great.
Girl.
Amazing. Did you hang on to most of...
Question. What criteria do you use to identify the right RV parks to acquire?
Oh, back to RV parks. So RV parks, actually, one of the great things about RV parks, when we jumped into RV parks, we actually didn't know what we were looking at, and we just kind of fell into the right one and were able to negotiate the price down. And so originally it was listed at $3 million, and we got it down to 1.8. And so with the numbers lower, it made more sense for us to go into it because otherwise we would have been upside down. But some of the easiest things to look at whenever you go into an RV park is, one, how much work do you really want to put into it? Like, are you really willing to go in and like reposition the entire thing? Or do you think that maybe you should pay a little bit more and get one that's a little more turnkey? I think those are 2 different things. We buy some that need to be completely rebranded and repositioned, but we're now at a point where we understand the asset. We understand what we can do with it. But if you were going to go in as a novice, I'm not saying you can't reposition the park as a novice because we did that, but it took a lot of hard work, a lot of tears. So that's something to think about. We also look for places that are going to have a lot of people that are coming in. Either we're going to have a big tourist area or we are the tourist area.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of parks that are in great tourist areas. One is in Branson, Missouri. We have one off of Route 66. We have another one that's in the Lake of the Ozarks. Is Alaska. The one we're closing on is a really great place because it's a vacation destination. And then one of our parks is literally in the middle of nowhere, but it pulls from different large cities that are within 2 hours of it. And it itself is a resort. So it's got water slides, arcades, movie nights, full activity calendars. Like it's a full resort in itself.
Nice.
Oh,
Can
so
we just
cool.
back up a little bit, Mychele, because I am blown away by how much you guys have done in the last couple of years, from basically knowing nothing at all about RV parks to owning 4 and looking at a 5th. With and what time frame was that?
We closed our first RV park December 28th of 23.
So barely over a year,
1
and you
year.
own 4.
Wow.
You've become an expert basically within a year, and I think that is so inspiring for people who aren't doing anything in real estate because maybe they don't think they can, or they're afraid or something, and you guys just dove in head first and are rocking it. And I just think that's so amazing.
I'm a huge fan of being, building the plane as you're flying. So I feel like you really can't learn something
That parachute
until
on the way down. Yep.
I mean, if I've got to sew it up while we're falling, it's fine. We'll get it.
That's Good company, Mychele. Yes.
Love it. So was the first one really clunky? Like, did the sewing come out all jagged and with holes in it and things?
You know what? Our first park was like a scrapyard. It was horrible. It was honestly like, I remember driving into it the first time and I turned around and looked at Patrick and I was like, we're going home. This isn't going to happen.
Oh no.
It was scary. It really was. It had been overrun by a lot of people that you would not really want to run into in the middle of the night. Like one was a drug dealer. All of his like junkies that were like hanging out. Like it was a scary park, but it was in a great location. And I am just hard-headed, I guess. I can take on everything. And
Well,
when
you
I understand that.
Yeah, no, I mean, because when I turned around and I was like, I don't think I want to do this. Patrick looked at me and he goes, "You're going to let a drug dealer run you out, really?" And I was like, fine.
No.
I got it. So, I had to, we went in and it really was, it was a huge project. We completely moved in for 3 months. And from day one, we were ripping things out. We put out a letter immediately. I'm going to say one of the best things to do if you go into a park that needs to be repositioned is you need to go in strong and hard. There's a reason why people don't go there and visit. There's a reason why it doesn't produce the numbers that you need it to. It's because the people who are there scare everybody.
Yeah.
And it's always the hard question I always get asked is like, I'm going to go into this park, but I'm afraid of losing revenue. So I don't want to kick everybody out because I don't want to be on the line for the loan. The best thing you can do, honestly, for a park like that is go in and kick everybody out.
That makes
and
sense.
just start from scratch. And it is a hard decision to make, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you keep those guests in there and they're paying their bills, they're going to feed into the people that you bring in, and you're never going to reposition that park and get it to a point where you can charge more.
Yeah.
And you're just going to get the same people over and over and over again. And so you really do need to go in hard and fast. And so we have 2 different ways that we come into a park. If a park is running really well and they've got great guests and it's mainly transient, we do a really soft landing where it's like we get to know the staff, we get to know everybody, and we slowly transition everybody over and start promoting from within. Or we go into a park like my first one where we literally go in, we write a 2-page list of things that are going to happen in the park over the next 90 days. And you're either on board or you get out.
I love that.
I like it. Hard ass.
So
That's awesome.
we have
Sometimes
5.
that just needs to happen, though, right? If you can't get rid of that dead weight, they're just going to pull you down and hold you back. And then you're just, burning through money. in holding
Yeah.
costs and
Yeah.
problems and stuff. And so that's definitely a hard lesson for newer investors to learn, is
Yeah.
that balance of
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. So I
And that
definitely
being
think if you're going to go into something like that, make sure you have the CapEx to be able to hold it for a couple of months while you're empty and then rebuild your reputation.
And also, do you think you can go in anywhere and do that, or back to location? Because there was one I looked at that had kind of people staying there like that, but also the location, I thought, even if you got them out and cleaned it a little bit, more of the same is going to come back.
Yeah,
Because
location is a big deal. Like, it really is a big deal. There was another investing group that went in around the same time that we did, and they bought 5. Actually, I think they started before us, maybe about a year or two before us. But they had purchased 5 parks, and one of them was down the road from us. And the parks that they did, some of their locations were not really desirable. And now I've seen them a couple of times pop up in some of the underwriting classes because they're trying to sell them now. And yeah, but the problem was is that their locations were not in great areas. And because of that, they were never able to do what they wanted to do with it. So they wanted to make it more transient. They couldn't make it more transient because there's nobody visiting that area. Then they thought, okay, well, it's off of a main road. Well, unless it's off a main road that has a strong, desirable pool, like Route 66, super easy.
Right.
Everybody travels Route 66 at some point just because of the nostalgia of it.
Right.
Our park is literally like you drive right past it.
Oh, cool.
Next to one of the only like still going drive-in theaters on Route 66. So it's kind of got, and it's a big historic town.
Yeah.
So that's a little different than like some highway that's just, like, in the middle of nowhere. But then if you do a long-term park, you do have to look at where you're pulling from too. So, if your closest towns are more of the same, that's all you're really going to get.
Mm-hmm. So are yours a combination of short-term and transient? Or I'm sorry, long-term and transient?
So we do a combination in a lot of them based on the location. We like to keep like 30% of all of our parks dedicated to long-term guests, and that ensures, one, that everything is paid for. And that way, even when we go through slow months, like right now, we're completely slow. Like Branson, Missouri is dead. There's nothing going on. All the shows are done. We have guests that live there long-term, and that's about 20 of them. And they make sure all the bills are paid during the slow months so that everything during the season is cash flow.
We have another question for you. What challenges have you faced with managing RV parks, and how have you overcome them?
Hiring management is definitely one of the biggest challenges with managing RV parks, because most of the people that you hire into something like that, especially work campers, they're used to being transient. So they want to move. They want to move every so often. They don't want to be trapped in one place. And so finding management is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. And a lot of people do things like hire in third-party management. I'm going to tell you that I've done that. Don't do it.
Taking notes here.
Yeah, don't do it. If you can at all, try very, very hard to stay away from a third-party management company, if at all. And I don't mean to say that all of them are bad. The ones that I have been with have been a bad experience. They're not, the ones that I've been around have not been very transparent. They've been, they order things without you knowing. They decide things for your park that that you don't realize are going on. They hire in people that aren't necessarily great for your park. And then when something hits the fan, it just, you've kind of got to collect everything. And then they tie you into these contracts that are ridiculous, where you have to basically, thank goodness we have a great legal team. So otherwise that would have been a lot worse than it did. But thankfully it was a 5-minute conversation and everybody just agreed to part ways. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all have full-time managers who live on site then? Is that how you run them all?
We do. We have full-time managers that live on site. There's only one park that does not have a management that lives on site, but she was actually the previous owner of the park. And she had that park so streamlined and systemized that she doesn't have to be there all the time. So she lives in town, and just she runs a beautiful, streamlined, easy park. And like it's all automated. She's got her systems down to a science. Nothing really changed. The dynamic of the park never changed. So that one's probably the easiest one. It also, the expenses on that one are only at 30%. So it's a perfect park. If I would have gone into that park first, I probably would have never bought any other park because it was just, everything else would have been too hard.
And she decided to sell though, even though she had everything streamlined. What was her purpose for selling the park?
She just wanted an easy exit plan. And we got along when we met. And one of the things that we have is that we build really great relationships with our sellers. She actually didn't want to sell her finance. She didn't want to sell her park. She thought people were like trying to come in and take it from her. And she met with us for a little bit, literally one afternoon. By the time Patrick left the park, we got a phone call saying she wants to sell to you and she'll sell it to you for seller finance.
I love it.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
All about rapport. It's all about rapport.
Another
And
question.
she bought it. We actually bought it 100% seller financed. So we
Sweet.
bought it.
That's amazing. And how did you
Can
find
talk
the
about
seller?
some of the strategies that you've done for increasing revenue for your parks?
You know what? That comes from me just kind of like, I like to buy things. I go into every property, and this is just something that I've always done. I have gone into every property, and the first thing I do is I start evaluating it from different aspects of where I am in life. So like when I built my beach houses out, one of the first things I thought of is I'm a mom on vacation with my 5-year-olds and they're driving me insane. How do I get them out of the ocean and back so that I can make them hot dogs and just drink wine? How do I do that? And so that is how I built out my beach houses. And that was completely the strategy. So I went into everything else, including the RV parks, the same way. So if you look at my parks, it literally comes from a perspective of if I'm in Branson, Missouri, and I am like exhausted from taking my kids to Silver Dollar City all day, what do I need on the park to know that I can sit in front of a campfire and listen to them play off in this area and I don't actually have to interact?
Genius.
I know it sounds crazy, but it really is just, it's my mom brain that stops and says, if I was a mom, because the only person that goes on vacation that is not on vacation is mom.
Is mom. That's right.
Yep.
And so that is one of my main thoughts. So like when I look at like my park in Virginia, which is a full resort park, that one has a full arcade. That one has rental carts, golf carts that you can rent. That one has full water slides. All of that stuff is based on, I want to go on vacation and I really want my kids to go and have a good time, but I really just want to relax.
Were the water
Yeah.
slides there when you bought it, or were those things you put in?
The water slides were there when I bought it. So we did not put those in, but it originally had a cement water slide. So it's been there for 20 years. They just upgraded a couple years ago to the tunnel slides. So we actually, we go into it and like now we've got day passes for the community because it's a small community.
Yep.
And they're generating $250,000 a year in sales.
Nice.
So I didn't do anything extra.
You said that's
We
in
just
Virginia?
sold- That's in Virginia.
Where? I'm in Virginia.
Hillsville.
Where?
She wants to go to your slide.
Deltaville?
It's Hillsville. It's about an
Oh, cool.
hour west of Roanoke.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so super, super awesome. But like everything on it, like as we're adding things, like even this year, we're bringing in a whole new activities director. And the entire plan is the entire park is going to be themed every week. And so the activities director, because we also have like a area where you can sit and watch movies, the entire thing, the crafts, the activities, everything is based on a theme for that week.
How fun.
Yeah.
And then it ends at a movie on the grassy knoll at the end of the week where we'll sell them popcorn and mom will get some wine and they'll go watch Moana.
I love
Better
it.
than
love
a KOA, right?
I
It's like
love
a
Yeah.
it's like a KOA on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but these are the things and these are the activities that like your guests want. Like they want those experiences. They want those things that give them the opportunity to like just detach and unwind. And it also gives that their kids a place to be safe and like to play and have a good time. And that's one of the things that I love about RV parks is that it's really kind of one of the last places where we go. We're not in a hotel room where the kids are in the next room and they're watching a movie on TV. We're actually
Right.
all together, like doing things together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
Do you
outdoor
find that
stuff.
do you find the families in the parks are also interacting, the different families in the park, or are they all individually kind of doing their own thing?
So they're all actually interacting together. So some of them will come in groups, like we've done large groups. But the thing that I have found sitting on my RV parks and like hanging out, like we do community fire nights at all the parks where there is a community bonfire and everybody in the neighborhood, everybody on the park is invited. And so they'll sit around and they just start telling stories. And there's just something about RV parks and campfires that just kind of breaks down those walls. You don't have to be anybody else.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Brings
There we
out-
go.
What store sell wine? What a good question.
What are we all
So
doing?
actually, it depends on the state. So, like Virginia, we do not sell alcohol because then we would have to police them, and we don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So they are allowed to bring their own,
Yeah.
but we do not provide that on the park because then we're responsible and liable. But in like one of our parks, the Lake of the Ozarks, we have a full restaurant, and we are actually building out a liquor store that we're adding to it.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah.
awesome.
So people will be able to buy their beverages and go back out on the lake or go back to their camper or whatever. So we'll be able to provide those there. And
I
the
want to
need
go
for
there.
came in one, the restaurant does really, really well in the summer on sales. Our alcohol sales are in.
I'm sure that your restaurant experience.
And you have to
has
like come off of the lake and
Uh-oh.
Which reason?
I think it's just Mychele, right?
I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah.
just Mychele. There you are.
hi.
Yeah,
Did
you
you guys-
can frozen and mute.
Did you guys know that?
No.
No, we couldn't hear any of it.
Oh, I didn't mute. So I said that with that particular one, our liquor sales in that restaurant are so good.
I'm sure.
During the summer, like we're a standing room only bar and like bringing live music and everything else. So when we really looked at the sales and what they were doing, we realized if we just added a liquor store, because the closest liquor store is about 10 miles up the road with the grocery store. If we added a liquor store and a C-store on site, we would probably be able to capture all that revenue.
Oh, heck yeah. And I'm sure
Oh.
your restaurant experience helped a lot with that.
Yeah. So yeah, Patrick actually worked in the franchise restaurant business for 20 years. So it does help. We're actually bringing in an expert. He's a really close friend of ours that actually specifically does franchise growth and has been in the franchise business and has grown restaurants for the last 30 years. So he's coming in as a consultant to help us out.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're just becoming one big family business.
You could just make your entire own little town. You could have little shops and all kinds of things on there, right?
Yeah, no, we've actually got about 68 acres to expand on that park. So we just went in, we're getting all the permits and everything done, but we're actually expanding it out from the restaurant. We're actually increasing the restaurant size, the kitchen blueprint, because it does so much that we get, it's kind of the bottleneck. It needs to generate more. We've got a full marina, which we have done really, really well. In the past, it's done really well with people coming in, parking, ordering, and then leaving. So we're actually expanding that out and adding more slips for that specific thing. They do live music every Saturday night where they've got cabins on it. They do a full Sturgis type biker event in the summer.
Nice.
And then they've got the pads and everything, but we're actually expanding 200 pads and we're putting tiny homes on it. So
Oh,
that was
That's
actually my next
awesome.
question.
Yeah. So that's going to be a huge endeavor, but we're working on that right now. So we raised an actual extra $1 million just to do all the renovation ads.
nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. How did you go about raising that money? Did you create a fund, or how did that work out? We talked about that.
Yeah, we did. We actually opened up a fund. We opened up a fund about 2 months ago. And that is a $5 to $25 million raise. And so we are actually using the funds in the fund specifically to reposition our parks.
Nice.
And so we try to go into the parks as creatively as we possibly can, then take the money in the fund, inject them into the park, get them to cash flow and generate as much income as possible. And that way our investors and everybody gets the highest return.
Nice.
Nice.
So we're trying to avoid using the fund to buy the park as much as we can.
That makes sense.
How-
Gives you more cash to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way, if we can like generate more revenue by increasing, building out more spots, increasing the revenue on it, putting
Adding
in
tiny homes.
yeah, everybody wins in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah.
100%.
So how did you buy your other ones? I know you got financing, and how are you funding the others?
So our first one ever was a hybrid. We actually did seller financing, a private money partner, and a bank loan. And so we actually ended up with all of the money plus a CapEx.
Oh, very nice.
Which is why we were able to walk in and redo everything right away.
Yeah. That's the one where you had to get rid of the drug guy, right?
Yeah. So that was the one where we had to kick everybody out and start over.
Yeah.
And so definitely going in with a healthy CapEx is always something you should do. Even on the ones that you have seller finance, like we've seller financed a few of our parks, and we've gone in with a healthy like idea of what we were going to need in order to expand them and to change them over. So Virginia was that one was seller financed with 200,000 down, I believe. And that's a $4 million. It was actually, it's a $5 million park, but we got it for $4. So with that one, we went in and we knew right away, like we're going to have to redo the store, redo the siding, rebuild out some of the buildings and expand. And so we went in with a healthy CapEx to do all of that right away.
Nice.
Somebody's ringing.
Sorry about that. So Mychele, you mentioned that you have a fund that you're raising capital. So does that mean that it's open to anybody to just like, hey, I want to work with Mychele and her husband, and can I invest money and be a part of this team or be a part of this whole thing that she's doing?
So our fund is a 506c, and so it's for accredited investors only. And that the minimum buy-in is $50,000. And so from 50 to, we have different tiers. So 50 to $250,000, you get a 70-30 split on the back end. 250,000 and above, you have the 8% preferred return, and then you get an 80-20 split on the back.
Nice.
And it's a 5-year hold.
So this is for life then, or for however long they have their money invested in this park with you, then they get this split.
So what it is that at the end of 5 years, we'll reevaluate and decide if it's a great cash flowing park. What we're going to do is we're actually going to roll it into Fund 2. And that way our investors can have the option to move into Fund 2 and keep cash flowing that park. And if it does not perform the way that we want it to, then we will probably sell it and add a different park to the new portfolio.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So constantly evaluating and changing things over. And honestly, like the thing is that even now, a year later, our goal with each park has changed. And so what we thought we wanted in the beginning and the parks we were going for then are now too small, and we need bigger ones. And so I think that's going to be the same thing as we move forward and we move into bigger assets. And, you know, I mean, 5 years from now, that's a long time. If I went from 50 pads to 150 pads in a year, I can't imagine where we'll be at in 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
So you just
Do you see anywhere where robotics or AI might come into play in the future as it begins to get more and more in our communities?
That one's kind of a hard one because I understand the need for it. I think that there will be some niche parks that do it. But I think one of the biggest draws to campgrounds and RV park and RV park resorts is the personal touch that's involved in it. I don't really see a lot of people moving towards doing a lot of things that are robotic or instant or not without, like, I think people use online booking, but people still want somebody to walk up to them and say hi.
Yep.
Like they still want my campground owner to walk them to their spot.
Yeah.
They still want my campground manager to like still have that interaction with them and check on them and see how they're doing.
Well,
like as much as they don't want that, like the biggest compliments I get on our reviews is that our camp managers cared enough to stop in and say hi.
Oh,
that homey feeling. Yeah.
And that's what brings people back.
Yeah. I think too, like a lot of, like you go camping because you want to unplug. You want to get away from the electronics, from the robots, from all the things, from this nonsense that we're scrolling on all the time. And so I think that makes perfect sense, right? But what about like for advertising, for marketing, for recruiting longer term tenants, that type of thing on the business side? Are you seeing AI being helpful for you?
Yes and no. I think for advertising, marketing, and all those things, yes, absolutely. Like you need to have those things in order to go out. Like Google ads are huge. Google reviews are a big deal. Like all of that stuff is important. When it comes to hiring people that come in, most of the people who work for us are people who do want to unplug from that and they don't want to be a part of all of that. And so that I find is still very personal touch. So they're not like my managers that we're hiring in. Yes, we do want managers that are a little like, they want to be in one place for a while. They need to understand the systems. They need to understand how all those things work. But they're one-on-one, like they're work campers that come in. They're people who are trying to kind of unplug. They don't want to be a part of all that big society stuff. They want to just be like, they want their kids to play outside and have a good time. They want to be in an environment where they feel safe and away and they're not constantly being bombarded and sold to all the time. And that's the difference, I think. So the best way to do that is to unplug. I mean, I have people who work on our parks who rarely carry their phones. Like if I need to get a hold of them, like I need to call the office and the manager needs to like run them down. Because they have them to have them. They just don't use them and they don't carry them.
Yep.
So foreign to most of us.
I'm curious of like the age group of those people. Are you seeing anybody like maybe in their 30s that will do that, or are they baby boomers?
I see them all across the board, honestly. Like I have people who work for me that are in their 30s. I have people who work for me who are literally like hitting their 70s. So I've got them all across the board and they are all like, it's just, they're just from all different walks of life. Some of them used to be in corporate America. Some of them were never in corporate America. You can't really classify somebody who comes into your park. They're just so different and they come in for different reasons. But the one thing that they all seem to have in common is they all want to get away from everything that's considered part of society. They don't necessarily want to carry their phones and they want to be at a slower pace. They don't want to be rushing all the time. So
and I was wondering more for the people who will actually leave without their phone who work for you, like because I know very few people who walk anywhere without their phone. So I was curious.
I am going to tell you the truth. If I didn't have to shoot content while I was on my parks, I would not carry my phone on my parks.
Amen, sister. Amen.
And that is because it is just so laid back. You almost forget that you have one.
And
I love that. Like it is probably like out of all the things that we have, it's one of my favorite things. The only place that I can say that I like as much of that is like one of my beach houses because it's in such a small, quiet, sleepy town and the beach is never busy. That is the only place that I feel as unwound and like relaxed as my parks.
Nice. Yeah. That's absolutely the place where I would lose my phone.
Yeah. And it is definitely one of those things that it's really nice to kind of just be in a place where you get to see like kids play.
Yeah.
Like genuinely play. Like they ride their bikes and they have a good time,
Yes.
and they're laughing, and they're not with an iPad or a phone, and they're like telling stories at a campfire with their uncle, or like you see that on the park. I love that.
I love it. Yeah. So I want to, before we get off here, it's over 9 minutes. We're having a ski trip in Keystone, Colorado, in this really large home. A friend of ours that is just purchased it. So you guys are all invited.
Yay! Fun.
Okay.
I'll be by the fire.
Well, give us
They won't fire there.
I need the wine.
I'll be on the beach.
I don't ski,
Miami.
Come to the fire. I'll have the s'mores and the wine, and I'll be the one who bites.
Michelle.
Yes, girl, yeah.
are you hosting it, Angie?
Yes, Rachel and myself, and I think Janelle from, she's in sub 2.
Yeah, Janelle.
What do you
No.
expect? What kind of a turnout you expecting?
Well, last year we had about 17 people go, but this year we're planning farther ahead. So now we're spreading the word and trying to get a lot of people. I think so in this house, it's about 14,000 square feet. There's a basketball court. There's a swimming pool with a running court around the top of it. But I was like, well, everybody could bring big blow up mattresses, like the younger kids, the 25, 6-year-olds, my son, and sleep in the large basketball court. And then there's, I think, 7 rooms, and every room has a bathroom, and they got bunk beds and a lot of them.
Wow.
So it's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
nice.
like a lot of chaos and a lot of fun.
Yeah. We had so much fun last year. We had a lot of
Angie,
fun.
Courtney wants to know how they get more details about it.
Rachel, are you on? She's in the chat. I'm going to have her do it because she's got all the information.
Rachel,
most
hit
of the planning.
hit us up with your contact info so people can find out more about it.
Yes.
Michelle, do you have
version of an RV park camping?
Yeah. I was wondering if you have like one fantasy RV park that you want to make or create.
I think I honestly can tell you that every single one of my parks are different from each other. Not one of them is the same, and they all suit a different need. And I like that. So I don't think that there would be one that I would think was perfect. I actually love them all for what they do.
Yeah.
So like I love my Branson one because it was my first one, so I'm just partial to it. But I also love that it serves it's the tourist area. There's not a lot that has to be thought about with it. It's pretty simple. It's straightforward. It serves a need. People go there to sleep, and I still get to see the kids play at the end of the day while mom is sitting around drinking her wine. And our Route 66 park, it is right off the route. It's a great place for people that are traveling down the route. They can stop in and stay for the night, or they can stay for a long period of time and visit the sites around that, which is great. But it's a pretty straightforward park with just a pool and a laundry room. There's no massive things that need to happen there. Lake of the Ozarks is a completely different park. It is a complete resort style, but it's more of an adult resort style where it's like got the bar, the marina, like everybody's coming to party. It's just going to be a good time. And that's that one. Virginia, completely family oriented. Everything is about the family. Everything is based on what your family can do together. And then Valdez is just completely sightseeing.
Love it.
So every single one of them is completely different. Every single one of them suits a different thing. I love that I get to be a part of so many different people's vacations. Everybody's in a good mood.
Yeah.
Maybe you can host a sub 2 event at one.
Yes.
Angie can help you.
Right? We could do one at the Lake of the Ozarks. That would be amazing. Or Virginia. That would be awesome.
Virginia.
Large enough that like, and we've got cabins and everything, just bring everybody down and just like throw them all together.
Yeah.
So
It's an
Yeah.
hour west of Roanoke. I actually have a house right there, right in that area, just over the border in Buckley, West Virginia. So like right in that area too. So that's awesome.
yeah, beautiful area.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous out there. So gorgeous.
Yeah, no, it's really pretty. I mean,
Money.
parks are usually places that are beautiful. And I love that because now I get to be in all these beautiful places that I would have never seen before. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, so I can't say that there is one specific model that I would like more than another. I think they suit different needs, and somebody going into it, especially as a newbie, like going in as an investor, you need to find the thing that you want. And I personally think the way that we did it, where we organically grew, was probably the best way we could have done it. Going into a park where it didn't really have any amenities and adding them and learning the ins and outs on a smaller dime before expanding into bigger things where more people were involved and more investors were in it.
Yeah.
We got all of our kinks on a smaller park.
Yeah.
And then that way, going into a larger park and bringing in other investors, we can say, okay, we know for a fact that we can do this. So yeah, it just made me feel a lot safer. Yeah. And just it makes it better all around, I think. I'm more about the sure deal. I want to make sure that I'm a good steward of the people that are involved with me. And that is like a huge deal to me. So it was definitely one of the bigger things, is just making sure that we got all of our kinks out on a smaller park that was just us.
Yeah.
Right. That's really
I think
smart.
that's smart. And that gives you a case study to be able to show other investors, so that way they can be confident in investing with you on the next one. And that just allows for more scalability.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And then it also gives you the idea of like, okay, now you can build out all your systems. We know exactly how we hire people. We have people in place who do all the hiring, who vet all the people, do all the background checks. We've got all those systems built out. And then going into a bigger one, it's just, okay, so now we go into this bigger one. We automatically put all these systems in place. We've got all that. Now we just need to learn these new systems for these new things that are coming in. And that's really super easy and streamlined. And we just keep going. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting down to the end of this time, Mychele. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was awesome. And I would love to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. How about in a year when I have like 15 parks?
Yeah. And we've traveled
We're
them
gonna
all.
stay in touch to keep watching your journey, Mychele.
Right? And then you guys can all do it live, like on one of the parks.
Oh yeah.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
With
awesome.
Right before the meetup that you're going to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they want to get a hold of you, can DM you on social media, correct?
Correct.
All right.
I always answer. So yes.
And that's your DM. And so if someone is an accredited investor and they want information on how to invest in your fund, they reach out to you on a DM, correct?
They can reach out to me there, or they can go out to my webpage, which is Mychele Bisson, same spelling.com, and hit invest with me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, great. It was so good to have you on Wholesale Hotties. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Ladies, any last minute stuff for Mychele?
It was super great having with you.
I love your sound.
I know you didn't do any of your voices this time, Angie. Can you thank Mychele in one of your really cool voices?
Thank you, Mychele. We really appreciate that.
Oh, goodness. All right. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and hit end stream. We'll see you guys next week on Wholesale Hotties Live.
Yeah.